What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are going to knock out a late Father's Day gift on Dad's Jeep Wrangler JL here. What we're going to be doing today, obviously, as you guys saw from the title, is adding factory passive entry. Now, passive entry, if you aren't familiar with it, is leaving the key in your pocket, walking up to the vehicle, grabbing the door handle and it unlocking. Correspondingly, when you get out of the vehicle, shut the door, you can hit the button on the door handle to then lock the vehicle. So in theory, you should never have to take the key out of your pocket. Throw it in your pocket, lock, unlock. Yes, if you wanted to remote start, you'd obviously want to hit the key. But this Jeep was optioned really well, thank goodness, other than they didn't do passive entry. Now, passive entry was and wasn't optionable on some trim levels throughout the years. So maybe on this 2020 Sport, you wouldn't have been able to. I guess I'm not really sure, depending on how the build configurator was that year. But this thing got, trailer tow and auxiliary switches and the technology or the safety group with blind spot, backup camera, LED taillights. I mean, it got a whole bunch of stuff, but unfortunately doesn't have passive entry, which has always kind of annoyed me on JLs, because every single JL, whether you've got crank windows or not, has a push button start. So Jeep, just throw it on all of them. I believe it was like a $250 option for when you were able to option it on your JL build, and it got forgotten on a lot of JLs. So we're gonna go through the process here of adding factory passive entry. Now, there's a few different options you can do. The factory would have had the passive entry on the driver's door, the passenger door, and the rear tailgate. So you can do that, or you could choose to just do the driver's door, or just the driver and the passenger door, or all three. So all we're going to be doing today is just the driver's door. So we will need a handful of parts, but then you'll also need to program the vehicle. That can be done, again, a handful of different ways. Now, if you've got a Taser or JScan, you'll be able to go in with those software devices and turn on passive entry in the vehicle. If you don't have any of that and don't want to mess with any of that, this is something that you can take into your local Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge dealership and have them turn on. Basically, they can add the sales code to the vehicle and reconfigure the vehicle. I believe the sales code is GDX. I'll put that up here on the screen, whether that is the correct one or not. I believe it is GDX. So you'd need to go into your dealership and say, hey, I need the sales code GDX added to my VIN number and the vehicle reconfigured. They're obviously going to charge you something for that, but since I have never hooked up to JScan on this specific Jeep, that's what I did. I'm luckily the technician there at the dealership doing that, so I again added that sales code to this vehicle and reconfigured it. So my programming is already done. Again, if you're using JScan or a Taser, you will need to go in there and configure the vehicle and go through the little step-by-step menu on, again, the Taser or JScan. Now, what parts we actually need. I will, again, throw a picture or link, I guess, for all of the part numbers, because it's gonna kind of depend whether you're just doing the driver's door, both front doors, all three doors. Again, we are just doing the driver's door here today. So the main thing here is the passive entry door handle, because we need one with the button on it to be able to lock and unlock the door. So that is our passive entry handle. To go with that handle, you will need a new door handle cap. There is a small magnet in here that basically the door handle senses when it goes past that magnet to know whether it's open, closed, or whatever. So that's why we need a new door handle cap. Now, the last big thing here is the door wiring harness. The door wiring in this Jeep obviously has no way to plug into the new door handle. So that's why we have a brand new door wiring harness here that is going to plug into our handle and basically rewire that door. Now in theory that would be everything, but there is one last hurdle to jump over. If you are a lower trim level Jeep, or basically any Jeep that didn't get passive entry, you're going to need to check to make sure your vehicle is wired with passive entry from the factory. There is an additional set of wires that need to go into the door jamb connector in here on the door. Not on the door side, obviously, because we are replacing the harness, but there are two wires that need to be there on the connector for the door plug-in. Again, if you are a low trim level, yours potentially will not. I'll throw a picture here up on the screen talking about that connector. You'll need to unplug the driver's door connector and take a look at that connector and see if you've got pins in certain places. If you don't, you're gonna have to spend some more money, and unfortunately Dad's Sport, his 2020 Sport, even though it's got like a whole bunch of options, cold weather group, yada yada yada, it did not have the wiring. So you are left with one option. There is a company called NIS Mopar that makes custom wiring harnesses exactly for this. So unfortunately, you are again stuck with buying their aftermarket wiring harness that they've made. Now that would be great, fine and dandy, but they are wanting $90 for these little pre-made harnesses, but that's kind of your only option if you want it to be very OEM. Now I am just doing the driver's door, so I only needed this one little wiring jumper harness, but there was no option just to buy one. You had to buy both. So if one of you guys are wanting to do this on your vehicle and you are also missing the wiring, hit me up. I'm gonna have a extra wiring harness here. If you were just wanting to do your driver's door, I'll let you buy this off me so you can get your driver's door done and I'm not sitting here with two harnesses. So guys, I guess let's now jump into the Jeep and let's start this project. All right guys, so jumping under the dash here, this is the driver's door wiring connector here at the dash. Now yes, you've probably got this little plastic cover covering up this. You pull this out, get that out of the way, and then you can get to this connector down here. If you've had your doors off, you've obviously already messed with this connector before. We will slide the red lock tab up, and then you can actually get the white piece flipped up and unhooked. Now guys, this is the connector that you're going to be taking a look at here. You are going to be referencing the basically picture to see if you've got the little metal pins in the wiring or in that connector location. And on this Jeep, the two pins that I needed to be looking for, 15 and 16, are not populated. They do not have wiring in them. That basically means that this Jeep needs that additional wiring, unfortunately. So guys, I think instead of showing you adding that wiring right now, what I'm going to do is do the door first. So we're gonna add our door wiring, the door handle, all of that stuff, since everyone's gonna have to do that regardless if you need to add that additional wiring on the body side of the vehicle. So, like I said, if you guys are also missing the wiring like I am, continue watching until after we get done building the door, and then we will actually put the wiring on the vehicle side and we should be good. All right guys, so first things first on getting our door torn down here, we're going to need to get the door panel off. Now there are a couple of T30 Torxes under the grab handle here. In the door handle, there is a little trim cover that we can get pried off. And then we will have another T30 Torx. And then down here at the bottom, we have a couple of T20 Torx. And now we're going to be able to get the door panel off. It has a bunch of clips that go all the way around, so you'll just have to get a little bit violent with it. Now guys, once we've got the door panel unclipped, we're going to need to unplug this harness down here at the bottom. And then we've got our two door latch cables that we can get unhooked. And guys, both of those cables just go into this plastic bracket here and then into the handles. So now that we've got the door panel all pulled off, we're going to need to get the window unclipped from the window carrier plate, window regulator assembly. So that's what these two things are down here, are for access to release the glass from this carrier plate. So with these off, we are going to roll the window down until we can see the two access clips basically show up in these two windows. So we'll turn our key back on and then roll our driver's window down. And guys, now with that down, we can see our two 10mm bolts that are bolting the glass to the window regulator. So we'll go ahead and loosen those up. Now guys, with the glass unbolted, you're going to be able to lift the glass up and slide it all the way to the top. And then I like to use painter's tape over the top of the window glass to help hold it up and out of your way while you are working. All right, so now with our carrier plate getting ready to be removed, let's go ahead and get our door handle removed. There is going to be a black sticker over a hole in the body. Now, in the body of the door, and that is going to be able to be removed to gain access to a T20 screw that screws the cap down onto its mechanism. So we're going to loosen that until it stops loosening. And then we're able to just pull the cap straight out. And then the door handle should also be able to slide towards the back of the vehicle, lift, and be able to be removed nice and easy. And now again, to fully pull that carrier panel from the inside, we are also going to need to loosen this screw here because that is unfortunately connected to the whole mechanism inside the vehicle. And then here on the other end, we've got a rubber gasket here that has a few clips that kind of holds it into the body also. Now up front, we've got a couple of T30s that hold the metal holder for the door wiring that we can get unbolted and out of the way. And we've got a few wiring clips here holding the door wiring onto that carrier plate. And here is wiring for our meter that's going to stay on the vehicle, so we can get that unhooked and pulled out of the way. Now again, guys, here on our door latch are a couple of T30 Torx that we can get unbolted because the latch is also connected to that window regulator carrier plate. And now we should be ready to get all of our 10mm bolts holding that carrier plate on off. Now with those off and out of the way, we're going to be able to start working at getting our carrier plate removed. Okay guys, that did not come out exactly how I was planning for some reason. Our door handle bracket basically was not coming loose, and I believe it's because my lock cylinder. But this piece clips into our plastic door handle bracket, so I was able to pop that out. And then we've got two metal lock rods that need to be unhooked from our latch, and then we can actually get the whole thing out of the way. So for our new door wiring harness, all we're going to be doing is just unclipping everywhere where this is, and then installing our new onto the door panel. Okay guys, with this now actually out of the vehicle, as you guys saw, there were one more little T20, and then the lock cylinder pulls out of the front, and then this would have come off with the door panel. So don't do what I did, just do it the correct way to get both of those out. So I need to now reassemble this. Here are two lock rods that I had to take apart that you wouldn't if you are now doing this correctly. And then our door handle harness actually has a nice little channel that it goes in with a couple of clips. So with our harness fully installed, and we've got the passive entry harness ran through its little channel that it goes in and tucked out here, ready for the handle to plug into. We're ready to get this whole darn thing tucked back inside the door now. With our carrier plate in place, we'll go ahead and get all of our 10mm bolts tightened up here. We can get our wire ran rust of the way, and then our door check strap holder. Now moving back out to the handle side here, we've got our door lock cylinder that we need to get slid back into place. And then our T20 here, tightened back down. And a little sticker over that hole. We've got our rubber gasket that needs to go back into its place. And we've got our screw here in the front that needs to get tightened down. Now obviously you do want to make sure your wire made it through before you tightened all of this stuff up. So now we'll be ready to plug in our passive entry handle. Get it tucked back in here. And again, pull it rearward and then slide forward, and then our new door handle cap. And then we can tighten the T20 there for the door handle. Now we're ready to get our window glass untaped and slid back down to our mounting bolts down here.
We've also got our T30 Torx mounting bolts here for our door latch. And then last but not least, we'll be able to get our door panel put back on. We've got the big wiring connector here and our two cables that attach to the brackets and the handles. And last but not least, we've got our T30s here in these positions with our cover, and then our two T20s down low. So now guys, for the few of you that are already pre-wired, that has those two wires in the connector that we looked at the start of the video, you'd at this point be able to plug in your new door wiring harness, configure or program your vehicle, whether you're doing it or you're having the dealership do it, and it would now immediately start working. For some of us, as in myself, and some of you guys that didn't have that wiring, this is now the next part of the procedure. That is that $90 wiring harness kit that we had to buy from the aftermarket Mopar parts store. So we're gonna jump inside here and try and get that now installed, and then we will finally be done. All right, so now in the interior here, the first step is going to be removing this lower kick panel. Now we are going to need to have this wiring harness unclipped from the body so this trim panel can come off, and then we will have a 10mm nut and then this panel will pull towards the interior of the vehicle. So guys, here is our little jumper harness. Now what this is going to be doing is going from our door wiring connector up here. It's going to be then going into this lower gray connector down here. So I will show, or I've got the pictures that kind of show or dictate the correct locations. So up here on our door connector, it needs to go in pins 15 and 16. Again, I will try to show a little diagram here of where that actually is. And for getting those pins in and out, we are going to need to pop this white plastic piece. We're going to get a small screwdriver and lift this white piece up. And that should give us access to getting pins installed in this connector. So again, we are installing these in 15 and 16, and this aftermarket harness is really nice because it's actually labeled, you know, pin 15, pin 16, so you really have to work hard at messing it up. So once you get the two wires pushed through and clipped in, you can then push down that white locking mechanism so it holds those wires in place. Now we need to get the other end of this wiring harness over here into this bottom gray connector. So with the bottom gray connector unplugged, we are going to be working on getting these pins into, at least on the driver's side, 25 and 26, which again, I will try to show a location here on the screen, but this one's actually numbered. So on our bottom row, we've got a 22 marked here, which I'm sure you guys can't see. So 22, 23, 24, it'll be 25 and 26. Now this connector has multiple kind of locking mechanisms, we've got this red lock here on the front that we are going to need to get pulled out. And again, just a small screwdriver, you're able to get that thing lifted and removed. Now this connector has plastic plugs that are in any of the unused positions, so we are going to need to get those out. So to get those out, we're unfortunately going to need to reach really far down in and release a small lock tab while we are pulling on the back side of the plastic plug. Again, this is going to be extremely hard to tell or see, but once you guys actually have this thing apart, you'll know what I'm talking about. There is, again, a small plastic lock tab that you have to use a small pick, and then you can remove the plastic plug. So with both of the plugs out, we are now finally able to put our wiring into its position. So we've got 25 and 26. Now these terminals do only fit one way, but again, there is a small little notch on the top that matches with the back of the connector, so it's kind of impossible to do it wrong. So now that we've got those in, we're able to put our red lock tab back in the front of this thing. We can get our connector plugged back in. And the connector put back on the side here. And now guys, we are able to put our trim panel installed back in. That will go on and kind of clip sideways there. And then we've got our single 10mm nut that bolts it on. So now our final thing is going to be plugging in our brand new door harness to our newly wiring added connector here.
Well guys, now is the time, whether you are programming the vehicle yourself with JScan or a taser, or if you are taking it to the dealership and having that GDX sales code added to the vehicle. But once that is all added and your wiring is wired correctly into the right pins, into the right terminals, and you've got everything put back together, now's the moment of truth where you get to leave the key in your pocket, walk up to your vehicle, grab the handle, and the vehicle unlocks. Correspondingly, you get to get out of your vehicle and hit your passive entry button and have the vehicle lock. So we've got all of our wiring wired up into the correct location because it's working correctly. Again, triple check and double check to make sure you're putting it in the right pins. I understand it was kind of really hard to see what the heck I was doing during this video, but there are write-ups on the Jeep Wrangler JL form. I'll probably put a link down in the description. It's what I kind of scrolled through before I did this process. I've never added passive entry to a JL before. Never done one obviously at the shop or dealership. That's not really something that gets often done. Dad having a non-passive entry Jeep made me start researching, getting all the parts gathered up and collected, and getting the process figured out. So use this video as kind of a guide to show you how extensive you are going to need to go into the vehicle to know if this is something you want to accomplish. If so, definitely click on the link down in the description to go into the passive entry thread on the Jeep JL forum and figure out if it's what you want to do or not. Because again, I do this every single day for the past 16 years. I'm used to taking connectors apart, putting pins, releasing pins, doing all that kind of thing. So this is very normal for me to do every single day at work. But for some of you guys that aren't tearing into small electrical things, you kind of can mess things up. So be cautious. Make sure, again, you're using this as a guide to show you what, how to do it, what you're going to be doing. Now this whole process would be a lot better or easier if your Jeep is pre-wired. Again, like we showed at the beginning of the video, look in the door wiring connector, not the one on the door, but the one on the Jeep or the body of the vehicle. Look in that thing and see if you've got the connectors or pins
15, and 16. If you do, man, this would not be a hard job at all. Taking that door panel apart, you know, getting our little T20 Torxes out, getting all of this mess off, running our new wiring, it wouldn't be that bad. You know, our mirror glass here, or our door glass, excuse me. Again, all of that, yes, it's a little tedious and a little bit of a pain, but it wouldn't be that bad. Adding the additional wiring, that's kind of a pain, messing with small electrical connectors, trying to not break things, bend things, remove pins. So again, be cautious, use this as a guide. I don't want to see people down in the comments ranting and raving that I made them break something on their Jeep and cost them a lot of money because I showed them how to do it poorly. So again, use this as a guide to see if it's something you want to do, but goodness gracious, absolutely gonna be worth it. Again, this is a late Father's Day gift to Dad on his Jeep. We'll see how long it takes him to remember to leave the key in his pocket every single day and not walk out to it and hit the lock and unlock, because that's gonna be a hard habit to break, not having passive entry and then having it on the same vehicle. So I'll have to probably remind him a few times to, hey, leave that key in your pocket, use the darn door handle. So guys, hopefully this was informative if you are thinking about tackling this on your Jeep Wrangler. Again, you can do the same thing on the passenger door and that tailgate. I am just doing the driver's side door on this thing. That's the door that's going to be used 99.9% of the time. And guys, like I said, I had to buy the $90 wiring harness kit that came with the wiring harness for the driver's door and the passenger's door. So if you are thinking about doing this and are missing the wiring and are only planning to do the driver's side door like me, hit me up. You know, shoot me an email, shoot me a comment saying, hey, I'm planning on just doing the driver's side door also, and you and I can talk and I can sell you this harness for $40 or something. That's still less than half of what I paid. With shipping, I was $90-something into the two harnesses. This, yes, is long, but would work on the driver's door or the passenger door. These pins are going to be the same. So again, if you're doing just the driver's door, hit me up down in the comments if you'd like to purchase this, and you guys can get this harness for, you know, cheaper than what you'd have to buy it like I did on this thing. So let me know if you are in the market for that, and I think that's gonna do it. I need to get this thing back over to Dad's, and goodness gracious, it's hot out here in this darn garage. So I'm gonna get inside, get this thing returned, get this place cleaned up, and now Dad's got passive entry, and hopefully you've got a better understanding on how to do it if that's something you're wanting to do. So guys, thanks for coming out into the shop with me and finishing up another project. And guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.